Hey, Fuad here from beattweaks.com. In this video, I'm going to show you a simple technique you can use to bring out the punch and power and attack in your tracks if they are missing them. So in this example, in this video, I'm mastering this track, and at some point in the track, the drums get drowned out by the rest of the instruments. And what I want to do is bring some of that punch and power back to the drums. So one way you can do it is with compression. So what compression will do is it will let part of the sound through the compressor and then compress everything else after that. So therefore, the part that is not compressed becomes emphasized. The problem with compression sometimes is that it can affect the other instruments and it can affect the dynamics of your track, and it'll add pumping sometimes, and sometimes it just has effects that you don't want. So here's another cool technique you can use, still with a compressor, but just a different feature of the compressor. So what I have here is just Ableton Live stock compressor, and it has an expand function. So this is kind of doing the opposite of a compressor, or just approaching the sound in a different way. So instead of letting some of the sound through and then compressing everything else, what the expand does is it tells the compressor to take part of the sound and make that louder, and then bring it back to normal volume. So let me demonstrate this using a free plugin called Smexoscope. And all this plugin does is it shows you the waveform. All right, so let's take a listen to somewhere in the beginning of the song. And then if you click freeze here, it'll actually freeze the waveform. So what a compressor will do, when you set the attack time, you're telling it, okay, so I want you to start working after, for example, 10 milliseconds. So what the compressor will do is it will leave the first 10 milliseconds of the waveform uncompressed and then compress everything else after that, and then come back up in volume according to your release time. What the expand will do is it will tell it, okay, I want you to take the first 10 milliseconds. If you look at the waveform here, this is all these big waveforms is when the kick drum hits. So what the expand will do is it will tell the compressor, it will tell it, all right, I want you to take the first, 3, 5, 10 milliseconds, and I want you to turn it up. So that's a little bit of background information. Let me just demonstrate this using the compressor itself so you can listen to what it is doing. The point that I want to do in this track is that I want to bring out the punch of the drums. So I've clicked on the expand function here, and I want the ratio to be on maximum because I do want this effect to be I want to really bring out the punch of the attack. So I do want the ratio to be quite aggressive. And for the attack time, I only want the very beginning of the drum hits to be emphasized. So I don't want the attack to be too long, or else I'll start bringing out like the bass and the piano in the song and other instruments that I don't want to be caught by the expander. So I only want the very, very first few milliseconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the drop section, and then I'll start messing around with this. And if you click on this little icon in Ableton Live's compressor, it'll take you to a waveform readout, and you can actually pull down the threshold using this line. It'll read out the waveform, and you can see the drum hits, and then you can just put it right under those, on the base of those drum hits, and it'll emphasize those points. So you can hear immediately that you hear the attack portion of the snare and the kick drum. And you can hear it a little bit better in the beginning of the track because there aren't the other instruments playing there. Right? So that's the way the expander works. And if you pull the threshold down even more, you'll start catching some of the piano hits, maybe some of the percussion hits as well. So a lot of this can be up to personal taste, but this is a great, great way to bring back some of the punch that your masters might be lacking, or some drum loops that you might be using that you want to bring bring out some of the punch in those loops. You can even use it on kick drums, snares. It's just a great way to add extra attack and character to your sounds.